You read in the paper that AltaLink and TransCanada more recently have been talking about blackouts. The ISO stopped talking about blackouts. Interesting. And I'd be interested in hearing and seeing the data to show that it actually will cause blackouts if we don't spend $20 billion, or even $8 for that matter. I'd like to know how much we're going to spend to get through the next 10 years if we were good engineers. If we actually address the problem like good engineers. That's what I want to see. And I want to see it in a hearing, because that way I'm pretty sure it'll be truthful. The north-south transfers is an interesting thing to look at. The dotted line on this graph is the capacity to move energy from the north. The yellow is the high and low range during a given year, starting back in 2006. And we've got Crossfield Power Station under construction, commissioning this month. We got Bonnybrook Power Station coming online 2 years from now, and Shepard coming on 3 years after that. The capacity that we expect to be offsetting when these plants are in operation will be approaching zero. And this is before we get things like microgeneration and more cogeneration in our industries around the city. University of Calgary is talking about a cogeneration plant. The South Hospital is talking about a cogeneration plant. It's just happening all over the place. So why did I have to buy lunch for all of you? It's not in my budget. How was it, by the way? Good. To get to the reason for it all, you have to dig into a couple of things. There was a provincial strategy paper written this year. It talked about coal and carbon sequestration. The future of Alberta was going to be coal and carbon sequestration. We're going to be saved by it all. And if we had transmission lines to get that coal and carbon sequestration to California, we should be really pleased with that. Well, the interesting thing about this document, it doesn't even talk about the power stations in Calgary. They don't even exist. We weren't asked to comment either. I suppose we would have made sure they were in there. That's weird. The only generation under construction outside of Keephills 3 coal plant, and it's not even in the book. Here's what happened back in 2003. And you're going to start to see a thread here, and eventually the sweater will come unraveled for you, I suspect. Go back to 2003. AltaLink proposed a project called Northern Lights. It was first contemplated as this superhighway from Fort McMurray to Las Vegas. And we'd build this superhighway as a business like the Alliance Pipeline, and we'd hold an open season and sell capacity, and people would come from all over the planet to have a piece of the action, right? Well, they held a few trial open houses or open seasons and tried a few auctions, and they didn't work very well. And they said, well, yeah, this is really a tough sell. We can't get this project done. So they took this project and the Alliance Pipeline analog that it is related to, and went to TransCanada and said, can you give it a go? You guys are pipeline people. You guys understand the open season process. You're going to do way better at this than we are. And at about that time, I think they started to figure out, besides, we're way better to build our business case by going to the regulator and getting our assets put into the rate base. This merchant business, it's not really our risk profile. Now, I'm speaking on supposition, and I'm just guessing that that conversation goes on. But it'd be interesting to ask them. And I challenge any of you, maybe some of you work at AltaLink and could corroborate that. So 2003 was the Alliance Pipeline. But another thing happened that year. I'm going to come back to it because it's relevant to the story. We saw the formation of what's called the Iron Group. The Iron Group is a combination of TransAlta, ATCO, TransCanada, and EPCOR. They were pulled together about that time because they felt there was some benefit of getting synergies in our policy-making process. If we could only get aligned on things, then we'd have a better chance of making policy changes. I'll come back to that point. Then Northern Lights was handed over to TransCanada, and TransCanada tried a bunch of stuff to get that project done, and they've been working on it and working on it. And they started building a business around the American side of it. In fact, you might have seen in the paper an article by Dean O'Meara in the Herald who talks about TransCanada held an open season for another transmission project in 2004, the Northern Lights project, which started in Fort McMurray and went all the way to the Washington-Oregon border. So the news 2 days ago was an open season was going to happen on the American side. So it doesn't take much to figure out that if they're going to build the American side, what the heck's it going to connect into? Right? Well, it's the Northern Lights project that Alta Link and TransCanada couldn't get done. Starting to see the picture.